and welcome to the first video of the seminar History of English 2 from Synthetic to Analytic. In this video, I'm first going to discuss the structure of this course. Then I'm also going to talk about the content of this course, while in the third part, I'm going to address several things that are not directly relevant to our course, but which are nevertheless interesting to you. In the last part, I'm going to tell you what the next step in our journey will be. Right, the course structure. The first thing that you have to know about this course is who I am. My name is Martin von Wisch. If you want to talk to me face to face, you can reach me via Whereby on Mondays from 2 to 4 p.m. I'll explain what Whereby is in a minute. You can also write me an email or reach me via Twitter. If you're going to talk to me in English, feel free to use my first name. If you're going to talk to me in German or in another language that has a TV distinction, please use my last name. Also, feel free to talk to me about linguistics and about any aspect of linguistics. My special research interests, however, are historical linguistics of Germanic languages, history of linguistics, and then grammaticalization theory and theory of language change in general. Now, what I actually offer to you in this course. In this course, as the title actually already says, we're going to have a look at the history of English. So next week, we're going to discuss Germanic, the variety that existed and was spoken by the Germanic tribes before Old English actually developed. That was somewhere until the 5th century. The 3 following weeks, we're going to discuss Old English, the oldest variety of English that we have, spoken approximately until the 11th century. Then we're going to discuss Middle English, the variety of English that was spoken in England from the 11th until the approximately 15th centuries. 2 weeks after that, we're going to dedicate our courses to Early Modern English, that is, the variety of English spoken by Shakespeare. In week 11, we're going to discuss Late Modern English, that is, the variety of English that was in use in the 18th and 19th centuries. At the end of our course, we're going to discuss the varieties of English and how they are connected to the earlier stages of English we talked about in the preceding weeks. The first week, that is this one, is a simple introduction to historical linguistics. Last week, week number 13, is going to be a discussion of everything we have talked about so far. Right, so you can find a detailed semester plan on Blackboard, but the major topics that I just presented are non-negotiable. We are going to talk about Proto-Indo-European. We are also going to talk about all the different stages of English, Old, Middle, Early Modern, Late Modern, and also we're going to talk about present-day English varieties. However, if you want to talk about a specific topic or about a specific phenomenon that you find intriguing, don't hesitate to contact me and suggest so. We can definitely accommodate different topics that might be not only interesting to you, but also to the other students. So as I said, if you want to talk about a specific thing, contact me via Whereby, email, Blackboard, Twitter, email, or post, and we'll see about that. Right, then the subtitle of this course is From Synthetic to Analytic. If you look up a definition of what these words mean, you will find something like this. Synthetic describes the fact that grammatical categories are expressed by affixes. In English, that would be something like the past tense affix ed in painted. On the other hand, analytic expresses a situation where grammatical categories are expressed by separate words. In English, that would be, for example, the auxiliary will in will paint. So now you see that within one language, these different strategies of expressing grammatical categories can actually coexist. If you look at the different languages of the world, you see that they are synthetic or analytic to different degrees. So these red dots refer to languages that are highly synthetic, at least in the verbal sphere, and the blues and the blue dots and the white dots refer to languages that are not as synthetic. And in the course of the history of English, we will actually see that Old English, for example, was more synthetic than present-day English is. Old English had more morphology, more synthetically expressed categories, and present-day English relies more on auxiliaries, fixed word order, and other strategies. Right, now you have briefly been presented what this course is going to be about and what I have to offer. Now, the important thing is that you know what you have to do. So, firstly, you have to attend the course regularly and actively. That will mean that you'll have to watch preparatory videos, something like this. Then you will also have to read preparatory texts. You will also have to prepare an analysis of primary texts, that is, a text written in a variety of English that we're going to discuss. That will be a text written in Old English, text written in Middle English, a text written in Early Modern English, and so on. This analysis will then be at the core of our Zoom online sessions that will take place weekly. During this session that will last approximately 20 minutes, we'll not discuss the general things. That's why I'm going to upload the videos. During the Zoom session, we're going to discuss your analyses. There will be opportunity to answer your questions and to work in small groups. After every Zoom session, you will receive an online test to see how well you remembered things and to check whether you've read the texts. At the end of the semester, you will have two options. Either the traditional one to write a term paper. This term paper would be approximately 2,000 words long, and there will be a term paper guide uploaded on Blackboard in due time. However, you will also get an alternative solution. You could create and present a poster instead of writing a term paper. But more about that in due time. Right. A couple of slides ago, I talked about Whereby. Whereby is the platform where I will be having my office hours. Whereby is something like Skype, but you don't have to install anything. You'll simply click on the link here, and you will automatically be connected with my Whereby profile. I'll be there every Monday from 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If I'm busy talking to somebody at the moment, you are trying to connect to the Whereby profile yourself, you'll have to wait. As with a normal office hour, you'll simply have to knock at the door. If I'm busy, I'll not let you in and you'll have to wait. Another technical thing that you'll have to know about is Zoom. Zoom will be the platform that we are going to be using to have our online sessions. You will probably have to install a Zoom client, but that should not be complicated. And it's also free. To get to our sessions, simply click on this link or find the session using the meeting ID you see on the screen. But details will be provided on Blackboard as well. Another technical thing are going to be the online tests. As I told you, there is going to be an online test after each session. They are not going to be graded in any way, but you should not ignore them. They will help. These tests are going to be based on Google Forms and will be easily accessible to everyone. The purpose of these tests is twofold. Firstly, they will help you to repeat and remember the basic concepts of each session. On the other hand, they will also help me to counterbalance the lack of physical Q&A time, and they will also provide me with basic feedback about how much you've been able to remember and what things we should perhaps concentrate on more. Right. Another thing is Blackboard. Blackboard is something that you're probably already familiar with, but it's nevertheless important to remind you that you have to be enrolled in Blackboard in order to participate in this course. You'll find our folder with the course name History of English 2 from Synthetic to Analytic Summer 2020. There is no password needed and everybody can join. Actually, you should normally be added to this group if you're registered on campus management. I said that there is going to be no password, but in 3 weeks' time, when everybody is enrolled, you'll only get in upon personal request to me. So that to secure that everybody who is in that group is actually participating in our seminar. As I said, it is going to be vital to be on Blackboard, because on Blackboard, I'm going to post announcement if anything changes. I'm going to upload texts to be read, videos to be seen, and also links to other materials. On Blackboard, you will also have a forum. On this forum, you can either ask questions or share interesting posts and links that you find online. There will also be the option of posting anonymous feedback. There will, of course, be a feedback session at the very end of the semester. But if you want to tell me to improve or to not do a certain thing during the semester, you will have the option to do that on Blackboard. You can either write your name beneath that comment, or you can also post anonymously. Now, there are 3 important dates throughout this semester. The first important date is Tuesday, the 21st of April. That is the first session of our seminar. The last session of our seminar is going to be Tuesday, the 14th of July. Another important thing is the term paper deadline. That is going to be the midnight of Sunday, the 18th of October. That is the last day before the winter lecture period starts. Now, you've now seen everything about the course structure. So now let's turn to the content of this course. The first thing that we should talk about is historical linguistics. What actually is historical linguistics? Well, you could actually say that historical linguistics is the one discipline in linguistics to rule them all. In historical linguistics, we'll combine the study of phonology, morphology, syntax, and semantics together, because pronunciation can change over time, as we will see. Also, the morphological structure of a language, in this case English, can change and changes over time. Word order can also change over time, meaning syntax will be important, And also, as we will see, the words can change their meaning over time as well. In some aspects, historical linguistics also touches upon literary studies and the study of history. We're going to deal with primary text, as I said earlier. That means that we also have to have some information about the texts themselves. And if we are going to deal with texts produced by speech communities that lived more than 1,000 years ago, we'll also need to know something about those speech communities. So the first thing, the changing structure of a language, pronunciation, morphology, syntax, and semantics, is something that we call internal history. The history of the text and the history of the speech community is something that we call external history. And both internal as well as external history are going to be topics in this seminar. Right. If we now have a look at external history, we are going to talk about how the Germanic tribes actually got to the British Isles. We're also going to talk about the different ethnic groups living on the British Isles and interacting with each other. So later on in this course, we're also going to discuss how the English-speaking communities actually colonize other parts of the world, and thus also bringing English to these parts of the world. But external history of English also means knowing something about history. So we're going to talk about, for example, such things as the Battle of Hastings in 1066, the 100 Years' War in the 14th and 15th century, the plague, colonial expansion of the English-speaking communities, and also in the last stages of our seminar, it's also important to mention the development of social media, internet, Twitter, Facebook, and so forth. But the main focus of this course will be on internal history. So this means that we're going to have a look at how English developed from a Germanic dialect and throughout the centuries, from Old English times until the 20th century. If we're talking about the Germanic times, when English was not yet called English, we're talking about, for example, this thing, the so-called Vimose comb. This is one of the first documented objects bearing something written in a Germanic variety. In this case, the word haria, that probably means something like pertaining to hair, or something like pertaining to war, but given it's on a comb, the first variety, meaning the first option pertaining to hair, is probably more likely. Right? Hair in the 2nd century and hair in the 20th century. Haria. If we're talking about Old English texts, we have to move several centuries through time. So we have such texts as the Lindisfarne Gospels from the 8th century, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle from the 9th century, Beowulf from the 10th, the Exeter Book from the 10th century, Junius manuscript as well from the 10th century, and probably Beowulf is a text that you might have already heard of, and that we're definitely also going to have a look at in a couple of weeks to show you how Old English actually sounded like. I have here a recording of the first couple of lines of Beowulf. You will also notice that not only the pronunciation is different, but also the way you write the words is different. There are some signs that we do not have in modern day English. This, the second letter from the runic alphabet called Win. Nowadays we would simply use the W. And then also this another runic character, the so-called thorn, representing the TH sound. Right. So the first lines of Beowulf.
Oft shield shaving shelden a thratum, monigum meitum meldo settler of terch, eizo de erolas, sit an aret where thou shalt funden.
Right, Old English, 1,000 years ago. During our online session, we're actually going to do something similar, but with a different text, namely the fall of man from the Bible. In the 20th century, in English from the 20th century, you'll probably have no troubles. So we'll, during our online session, we're going to actually start with present-day English and then work our way back until the Old English version of this very same passage. So we'll start with something that is very familiar to you, and then we'll sort of work backwards in time until we arrive at the Old English version of the biblical passage. And along that way, we'll see how English actually changed not only orthographically, meaning the way you write English, but also morphologically, syntactically, and we'll also see some of the semantic changes that happened to English. Right, but more about that during our online Zoom session. In the beginning of this video, I promised that I'm going to talk about some things that are not directly relevant to our course, but that might nevertheless be interesting for you. The first thing that I wanted to mention is the Studentische Tagung Sprachwissenschaft, or the so-called STUTZ. It's a linguistic conference organized by students for other students who are interested in linguistics. STUTZ is a conference that takes place at a mostly German university every semester. The 67th STUTZ will be organized at the university in Bayreuth. That is going to take place from the 21st to 24th of May. Due to the corona crisis, the conference will not be organized as a physical conference, but rather as an online version. So feel free to look at that conference. You can participate either actively with your own poster, with your own presentation, or simply look at how other people are doing that. That means that this is probably the first conference that you can actually attend in your pajamas. The next STUTZ, the 68th STUTZ, will actually be organized here in Berlin. So, for example, what you could do is to present your term paper there. So if you find linguistics interesting enough, and if you think that your term paper is good enough, that's definitely a very nice thing to do, to present your paper to other people interested in linguistics. Another thing that you might do is to have a look at STUPS. STUPS stands for Studentischer Blog Sprachwissenschaft. It's a platform that actually gives you the possibility to publish your linguistic research. You'll have to write it in German or English, and your paper will have to have the maximum length of 700 words. All of the academic standards will have to be maintained, so references, bibliography, sources, and everything, but it will be accessible to a broader public than a simple term paper. This is also one of the alternatives to a normal term paper that I mentioned in the beginning. Right. As I said earlier, my responsibility will be for the main presentations. So I will provide you with these preparatory videos, with the preparatory texts, and I will also moderate the Zoom sessions. But that doesn't mean that you are not responsible at all. You will be responsible for participating actively in group tasks, in group discussions, and also in bigger discussions. It will also be your responsibility to complete the online tests I mentioned in the beginning. You can actually, as I said, have even more influence if you want to. You can express your wishes about certain specific topics that we should cover, and you can also give me feedback anytime. And I have to say that this is my first time I'm doing an online seminar, and I'm doing videos, so please bear with me. And if you want to give me some feedback, I'll be happy to receive that. As I said, you can talk to me in person via whereby, you can write me an email, tweet to me, but feel free to use the anonymous discussion forum on Blackboard. And what I also wanted to say is that this seminar will be a success only if we work together, if you do your part and I do my part. Right, that's almost the end of the first video. So what's next? The next step is going to be our first online session that will take place on the 21st of April, beginning at 2 o'clock. All of the details about that session will be on Blackboard. If you're uncertain about anything or you have other questions, don't hesitate to ask me at any time. Again, via email, you can post on Blackboard or reach me via whereby. I hope that everything is clear, and I thank you for your patience with this first video. Thank you very much, and see you soon.